Mr. Randazza, you've taken a look at this lawsuit, and we've been talking in general about free speech. Your comments on this specific lawsuit?
Well, looking at the complaint, I don't think it was very well done. And there are some defenses that I think you would have that are probably not the most flattering to you. But nevertheless, the question here is, how do I look at the lawsuit? If you look at paragraph 8 of the lawsuit, it says that the defendants are no stranger to spurious statements. They put in a couple of conspiracy theories that Mr. Jones has put forth, like the U.S. government orchestrated the 9/11 attacks and the mass shooting at Sandy Hook. I happen to not agree with those. I think they're silly statements.
They're not germane to this lawsuit at all, though, are they?
Well, they are, actually, because whether or not something is defamatory, it matters how the audience is going to view it. So if you're going to say, well, there's all these kind of crackpot theories. I mean, they're painting them as crackpot theory. And they say, this guy who made these crackpot statements now made this statement about us. Well, if somebody stands on the side of the road and has a sign that says, the world's going to end tomorrow, they're wearing a tinfoil hat, and they say that, Tyrannosaurus Rexes are going to descend from alien spacecraft and eat us all. And then they also say, oh, and by the way, I know that you're an adulterer. Well, I'm not going to have much of a defamation suit against them because they're not considered credible. So at first they say you're not credible, but then they say people are going to look at this and take it credibly. Their own pleadings, I really would not give this complaint a good grade because that paragraph alone, I think, while it may be insulting to InfoWars, also helps in their defense. Then they quote the Southern Poverty Law Center, which, despite my political beliefs, I happen to think is probably more guilty of defamation than any other organization that it might look at. But they say, Mr. Jones is almost certainly the most prolific conspiracy theorist in contemporary America. Well, right there, he got like an inoculation against this case. So that paragraph alone, whoever wrote that, I think should maybe have taken a remedial class in defamation law. So,
very interesting analysis. We'll have to see how this works out. But thank you so much for joining us, and I appreciate your stance on the First Amendment. I think this is something that the right and the left needs to come together to say that we have a right to discuss things, and we have a right to investigate stories, and people can label us as conspiracy theorists, but we're not going to take anything that anybody says without examining it. Thank you so much, and you can find Mr. Randazza at randazza.com.
What the aging process is when the cell replicates, we lose a little bit of our telomeres. Telomeres are the little cups on the end of our chromosomes.
And when it runs out, you start dying. Secure your DNA force today at InfoWarsLife.com.